In this video I'm going to be seeing if you can buy a pro camera system for less than £400. Join me. Well, hi YouTube, Brian James at Micro Four Thirds Guy with you once again, and as I said in the intro, I'm going to be seeing today if you can buy a pro camera system for less than £400. But before I do, don't forget, if you haven't subscribed already, hit the subscribe button below and also hit the notification bell to see more updates whenever I upload any new videos. And also, if you can give me a big thumbs up to like this, it really helps YouTube's algorithm spread the word of these videos to more and more people, so it really does help. The other thing is, if you enjoy it and you want to help me carry on making these videos, any support you can give would be great. If you want to leave a donation for a cup of coffee on the PayPal link in the description below, I'd love to have that, and thanks to all those who supported the channel up to now. Well, I was talking to a friend the other day and he was asking advice on what camera to buy. Now he's taken photographs in the past, so he's not a total novice to photography, but he had only £400 budget to spend on the camera itself, and he wanted a camera of quality. He wanted a quality used camera, and his opinion was that most of the newer cameras on the market were all very nice. You could get a good camera for £400, but they seemed cheap. They seemed to be built down to a price, and he wanted something a bit more quality. Now I asked him what he was wanting to shoot, and he said that he was wanting to shoot stills. He had no desire to do video work, which is great. Well, I immediately thought of a couple of cameras. First of all, the G7 or the GX7 from Lumix, but I also thought of the fantastic Olympus OMD EM1mk2, and also either the EM10 Mark II or 3. Excellent cameras for the price. And I was chatting with him and he said, you know, obviously he could never afford anything like the pro cameras that I have, pointing to my EM1mk2, and it sort of hit me like a lightning bolt at that point, that, well, why couldn't he? It is possible to get that. Maybe not an EM1mk2, but how about an EM1mk1, the EM1 Classic? And that started me thinking, you know, the EM1mk1 really is a fantastic camera. Well made, super quality, the output is great, great handling, and if you've got the right firmware updates, it's really feature packed as well. So I did a quick check on MPB. I'm going to look through my notes here, but I got a quick check on MPB for them, which in the UK is a large used camera supplier. Really do some good stuff, but it could be equally well bought from your local dealer. But I had a look on there and I found an EM1mk1 in good condition, including a battery charger, manual, body, cap, original packaging and an OEM battery, for £224 for an EM1 body. That's a pro camera body for £224. Now, good in this case meant it had a few scratches on the paint where you'd been attached onto a tripod, or you'd been putting the flash gun on in the past. But really, that's the only thing notable bad on them. Maybe a couple of minor little scratch marks on the rear screen, but that's about all. And then I started thinking, so what about the lens? Well, yes, the camera's pro grade, but I knew that the little 14 to 42 ED series lens from Olympus, the kit lens, which is an f3.5 to 5.6 aperture, that would do the job perfectly well. Now, again, I looked online and I had one for only £73 in excellent condition. So, you know, I thought it's got to be that. So, for less than £300, you've got a magnesium-bodied pro-grade camera and a really good quality zoom lens. So, and you've also got £103 left, which is superb. So, I realised at that point that for his £400 budget I could make this a little bit special. So I decided to have a look and see what I could find insofar as the 40 to 150 f4 to a 5.6 lens, which you can see attached my EM1mk1 here. Great little lens, not particularly too big, but a really good focal length range to use. So again, I had a look on that, and again on MPB I found one of them for £73 as well in a good condition. For this we've got a pro camera, two really good usable range zoom lenses, so a really good kit for less than £300, and better than that, he's got £30 in pocket still, so it's absolutely ideal. But the question is the EM1mk1 still a good camera to recommend in 2021, 8 years after it was released? Well, keep watching to find out how it stands up, and watch until the end of the video when you find out my real conclusions. So let's delve a little bit deeper into the specs. I'm going to have to keep on reading onto this because there's so much here that I can't keep it all in my mind. I'm not going to cover the lenses in this video. They've been covered elsewhere really well. And to tell you the truth, I've used the 40 to 150 an awful lot of times. I've used the 14 to 42 a couple of times. My sister uses it. It's a superb little lens, and to go with this camera, I really think for those prices it's beyond reproach. You just got to go for them. The camera, introduced in 2013, it's now 8 years old in 2021. And it was when it came out, it was a major upgrade to the then EM5 Mark 1. Now the EM5 Mark 1, when it came out, was also a real leader in its class. It was streets ahead of what was there, and led the way for Micro Four Thirds as a more professional series of camera rather than just the pocket camera, which had been really conceived as and perceived as up to that point. The EM1 Mark 1, well, it features a weatherproof, splash-proof and freeze-proof body, magnesium alloy, and it weighs only 497 grams, so really lightweight in itself. It's got a flip type, if I can show you here, a flip type 3-inch screen, you can see from below and from above, and that's a 1.04 megadot resolution. It's got some touchscreen capabilities, but not as good as the other cameras, but certainly it's on there and it's usable. Now, the viewfinder on this is a large, clear 2.36 megadot electric viewfinder, and it's got a 0.74 equivalent magnification rate as well. The displays are good, even by today's standards, although I must admit that switching it on, if you go into the menu mode, the menu is a little bit dated compared to what you can get on other cameras today, but they are usable, so I wouldn't worry about that. It's got a 16.3 megapixel sensor, and it features both contrast and phase detect for the autofocus. And also there's no low pass filter, no anti-alias filter on this, so that in theory should give slightly sharper shots again. I know that 16 megapixels doesn't sound particularly impressive today, but don't let that put you off. 16 megapixels is perfectly adequate for 90% of shooters, and to be perfectly honest, for what most people do, to put it onto social media or to put it into computers for albums and things, really, if you're pushing it, if you're struggling with 16 megapixels, then you're going into the more specialist state. Yes, I know that there are cameras with an awful lot more on them, and even the Micro Four Thirds line have got up to 20 megapixels, but I don't feel in the least bit restricted by this. And to tell you the truth, there's an awful lot of people would argue that the 16 megapixel sensor on the EM1 is actually better than some of the later 20 megapixels, but that's for a later video. Now, when it was launched, it had a 5, and still has a 5-axis in-body image stabilization, and then it really was top of the class. There was nothing to beat at the time. 8 years later, it really still does hold its own. It's got a 4 to 5 stop image stabilization, and really gives the opportunity to get some excellent results in low light conditions using some slower lenses. So again, for a more novice photographer, it gives you the ability to get some really good results. The body itself, as you can see, is fairly compact. It's not too small. What I do like about it is the grip. The grip is excellent, very comfortable, very stable on the camera. Improved further, I can show you this. If we take the little rubber foot off the bottom, which stores onto this. This is the HLD7. Now this HLD7 is a battery grip, which is an optional extra on the camera. When I can get this to go into there we are. It just stores in the battery grip itself, the little rubber foot, and that opens up the contacts on the bottom. Very quickly, easily goes on. Lock it on the bottom of the camera, and this gives not only the ability to have a second battery, but you can also see that it extends that grip down a little bit, but also gives you a wonderful vertical shooting grip. It's not essential, but it's really useful, and really inexpensive as well. It's only £40 or so in the used market, and if you take that budget that was said before, we're now £10, even with that grip on, about £10 over our £400 budget. So for £410 we've got a real pro stage shooting camera here. Now its TruePic 7 processor allows ISO ranging from 100 up to about 25,600 with a native of 200 on this. Although beyond about 3200 to 6400 it does create a rather soft image, and that's due to the firmware, which is trying to do its noise reduction. The Micro Four Thirds sensor does lack dynamic range compared to some of the other sensors, and does give a little bit more noise perhaps, but again, in reality I find that for 90% of the shooters, it's really not a problem on most shoots, and there's an awful lot you can do with post-production software as well. The body has a single card slot on the side for an SD, SDHC and SDXC cards. That fits into there. And again, it's considered a problem by pro shooters now, but at the time it wasn't particularly. And again, I would say for most people who aren't doing really critical shots where missing the shot will matter if something had happened, this, for the price, is not really a problem to you. It's certainly not as big as what some of the reviews would suggest, so I would be quite happy with this. In fact, I still shoot this as a professional, as a backup camera, quite happily even today. There's also on the front a PC sync socket, and that's for older cable triggered flash systems. Very, very useful. It wasn't on the EM1mk2, but it came onto the EM1 series, and it's been on the EM1s ever since. Something I find essential in pro level bodies is the ability to assign common features to function buttons, and also to have on a locking mechanism on the mode dial. You've got no idea what it's like when you're in the middle of a shoot and you accidentally knock that dial. It can really ruin the shoot for you. So by setting it to the type of shooting that you want, lock it into place by pressing the button and it just won't turn. Now, Olympus have really been good on the firmware update program ever since they started. And the EM1 Classic is no exception. It's currently on version 4.6 of the firmware, but big updates came on version 2 and version 4, and they incorporated many of the developments which were seen in subsequent cameras. So it was almost like getting a new camera in part upgrade at zero cost, I hasten to add. Now, version 2 brought in a lot of features, but among the key ones were the big ones were the keystone correction. So if you're doing verticals, you can actually get the verticals straight even though you're shooting at an angle. And also live composite came in version 2. Version 3 brought a lot of other updates on it, but the other big one was version 4 when it came in, and that brought both focus bracketing and focus stacking, and again, major improvements on the camera. Very, very useful if you're doing something a little bit more creative. It also brought in some improvements to the video system, which I'll come on to in a few moments. Now, additional features on the EM1mk2 include a minimum, or is it maximum? I can never work out if you class it as a minimum or maximum, because you're going to a shorter time, but a higher number. So it gives you a 1/8000th of a second shooting speed. So that's really, really fast shooting speed. It's got built-in Wi-Fi. Also, there's a suite of software which works across the whole Olympus range, which is the Olympus image system, and that's free to download. And that's available on multiple platforms, whether PC, Mac, tablets, iPhone, Android, wherever it is, you can use it on them. So again, that's free software, and that allows all the firmware updates to be done, and an awful lot of control. I'm actually using it on my iPad here, just in front, to control the camera that I'm on, which is my EM1mk2. Other than that, you've got a 1/320th of a second flash sync speed. So again, if you're doing anything studio-wise, it's considerably faster than most DSLRs, which are equivalent in the. So most of us are topping out at about 1/60th to 200th of a second. So it's giving you some really good ability to get a very, very fast flash sync speed. It's got 81 focus points on there, and multi-mode focusing, lots of different modes on there, and it covers most of the screen, which is good. It's not just a little block in the center. It's got in-camera HDR, a high dynamic range shots, and not only that, you can actually monitor them direct in the viewfinder as you've taken it. So again, really, really useful if you want to try and do a little bit high dynamic range shots, or if you want to try and just experiment a bit with the camera. It's got a 10 frame per second, or 9 frames if you're shooting continuous autofocus burst speed. So again, you've got some fantastic high-speed shots that you can do. And the first camera I ever had with 10 frames a second was my Canon 1DS Mark III, and that camera, the body alone, was costing over £4,000. So you can see what you're getting for less than £400 on this. The other thing is it's got an excellent silent shutter. The electronic shutter in this is totally silent as you're taking photographs. The problem is actually realising that you're taking them at one point. But if you're doing anything to do with weddings or anything where you're going into churches or religious buildings and they want a bit of silence, this is great. The clergy are going to love you. You're not going to get any hassle off them on this, because once they've heard that the shutter doesn't make a noise, you're not going to be an issue for them. So wedding photographers, really, really good for you on that one. For video shooters though, well, not so good. It's a bit of a disappointment, this camera, to be perfectly honest. In 2013, Olympus were not concentrating on video at all. Lumix were, Olympus weren't. And so it was very limited what you could do on this. It's got a limited but usable 1080 at 30 frames a second maximum record rate. And although on this camera, yes, it will do videos, you find that the autofocus is particularly slow and hunt, so it's not really great on that. It's rather ponderous. However, there is a 3.5mm jack input for the microphone and also a mini HDMI output for you to be able to send this off to external devices. But in reality, if video is something that you really desire on this camera, I'd be looking elsewhere. It's really not the one for you. Finally, batteries. Batteries, the EM1 batteries are readily available, fairly inexpensive, and not only that, if you've got a sensible application of the power switch, you know, switch it off between shots, something I'd advise any mirrorless camera user to do, to tell you the truth, then they'll give really acceptable duration. I do still tend to carry a fully charged spare with me whenever I do any photography like that. But if you've got the camera, the battery grip on there, open the little door on the side, you've got space for a second battery, so you can have both cameras in there, it'll auto change, both batteries in there, it'll auto change over, and it'll shoot all day. You can, if you're doing still shots, it'll shoot all day. Video is different because it takes an awful lot more of a drain on the system. But for still shots, you can get a full day's duration out of this on 2 batteries very, very comfortably. Well, would I recommend this? Well, absolutely, but only for still shooters. I wouldn't have any hesitation. I'd recommend it for still shooters, but for video shooters, I would look elsewhere. You've got far better cameras which will do the job. The EM5mk2, either the EM10 Mark II or Mark III, and also if you're going into Lumix, you've got the G7 and GX7, which are absolutely fantastic and do a far better job in the video than this will. Now, my EM1 Mark I is getting rather worn. It's lost some of the little bits and trim, but it's got. This example's got over 100,000 shutter actuations on it. It's ultra reliable. It's never let me down yet. And the shots out of this compare really favourably with anything you're getting on the market now. In fact, for some of the newer 20 megapixel sensors, a lot of people argue that this gives actually a better quality shot than them. That's open for another video though. I think I'll leave that one for now. But certainly there's nothing wrong with the quality on this. As a used by, from a reliable either mail order supplier such as MPB or whatever you've got in your country, or from a good quality camera shop, this is a no-brainer. For this price, get it. If you're going to be shooting stills, just get it. It's wonderful. The 2 lenses are suggested, the 14-42 and the 40-150. Again, for those prices, £73 for a lens. Superb. And they're really sharp lenses as well. One final thought. And that's, if you're going on holiday, this is a great lens, a great camera for taking on holiday. Now, if you're going to be going out and buying something like a G9 or the current EM1 Mark III, you're going to be paying somewhere around between £1,000 and £1,800 on that camera system. Now that's a lot of money, and for a lot of places where you go to on holiday, you do risk either damaging the camera or having it stolen. Now again, with that magnesium body, the damage is limited, and if, as I say, if it's only £73 a lens, if you do damage a lens, they're easy to replace and not too expensive. If you get your camera stolen though, I'd much rather replace a £225 camera than a £1,300 or £1,400 camera body. So this is where I take it on holiday, and the good part of it is, you know fine well that the quality of the image is going to be equally as good. So you're not losing out on that, but you do save yourself from losing out on an awful lot of heartache if you get your top class system damaged on holiday. So once again, thanks very much for watching this video. My name is Brian James, I'm Micro Four Thirds guy, and as I say, if you've enjoyed it, give me a big thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. It helps YouTube to use its algorithms to spread my videos to more and more people for them to see. And don't forget, if you have enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and if you do get the chance, leave us a cup of coffee in the link below on PayPal. Until the next time, keep your camera with you, keep taking it out, keep taking photographs, and keep enjoying your photography. See you soon. Oh, the rain's coming. Bye bye.